So Rob, tell me about this Goldtop that you have.
Okay, well, it's a 53.
Yeah.
It's mostly original. It did have a headstock break at one point before I got it. These are not the original tuners.
Okay.
I think there's one, maybe two pots that are different.
Okay.
Other than that, it's original. And I got it from Victor Krause.
Allison Krause's brother.
The
upright
bass player.
Yeah.
I had a 62 SG that I'd bought off of Bukovac.
Okay.
And it was a great guitar, really, really great. But I just found I wasn't playing it at the time as much as I wanted to. And somebody told me that Victor Krause was on the hunt for a really good early 60s SG. So I called him up and said, do you want to check this out? And he did, and he had two other 60s SGs. He was like, I want to do a shootout between this one and the other two that I have. I'm looking for the one, you know.
Okay.
And so I went over to his place and he played it, and he was loving it enough to want it. And he said, well, and at the time I didn't want to trade. I just wanted to sell it, get my money back. And he said, are you interested in a trade? And I said, you know, like we all do, well, what do you got?
Yeah.
And he pulled this thing out, and I remembered doing a session at his place years before that where I played this guitar. And I was like, oh, I remember, I forgot you had that, you know. And he's like, well, I'm thinking about, I would trade you this. And I thought, well, how much? I'm going to owe you money. I mean, this is not an equal trade. And he went, well, there's a headstock break. And I said, well, what are you thinking? And he said, I'd just swap you, you know. And so I started playing the guitar, and just instantly it was right for me. And so I ended up with it. And you know, I use it all the time. I mean, it's just, I love P90s. I love how responsive they are. And this is a really good one. It's fairly lightweight. And it just sounds good. The neck is perfect, you know. So,
what are maybe some songs that you've used that on?
Let me think. I use it so much now. It's hard to think of what are some songs. There's some stuff actually on the new Frankie Ballard record that's coming out. That's
okay.
That this guitar is on. I think El Camino.
Okay.
That's one of the songs. And it sounds really good on that song, so check that out. I think you can watch a YouTube video of it right now.
Cool.
Yeah.
Well, let's hear a bit of you playing the guitar.
Okay.
tell me about this mid-60s Strat you have here.
Okay, this was one of my dad's guitars. And when it's a 65 Strat.
Nice.
Yeah, and when he passed away, I kind of acquired this guitar full time. But it was always around the house. I played it, you know, and I got two of his guitars, a 55 Tele and this guitar that he had. He bought and grew in both at the same time, down in 80 or 81.
That was back when Gruen was a little bit further down on Broadway.
Yeah, yeah.
When Broadway was a scary place to go.
Right.
Yeah.
It's mostly original. I have all the original parts. I ended up changing the tuners at one point.
Just to other Kluson type machine heads?
Yeah,
Not to Shalers or anything crazy like that.
No. These were pretty much, I think these are Goda tuners or something. Whatever was
they have a better ratio on
them. The old tuners were starting to slip a lot, and something had to be done. This is not the original bridge, but I have the original bridge, and I've been thinking about putting that back on. I think I took them off because the saddles were sitaring so bad, and I didn't know how to fix that, or at the time I was a teenager or whatever. You know?
Yeah.
So I just bought a replacement bridge for it, just like the one that, a vintage style bridge. But other than that, everything's original. And for many years, this was really the only guitar that I had, and I played it in every situation I was in. I mean, America, Europe, I traveled with it a lot, and it's all this wear. It was kind of like really new looking when I got it.
Show the back of the instrument. You can kind of see the color, more of the color that it used to be.
That. Yeah. And you see where this paint is gone right here. I was trying to figure out how that happened, and one day when I was playing with Tinsley Ellis, we were out in the middle of Arkansas in August or something on a festival show without a cover, and I was sweating so bad. In the middle of playing a guitar solo, I noticed that sweat was dripping off my nose and hitting here and just rolling down that horn right there, and I guess that had been happening for years.
Okay.
And I just never noticed that that's what was happening. So it just kind of ate away the paint. That's the only thing I can figure, because it's just that, because I was literally watching the sweat drip right here and just travel down there, and it was just doing that the whole show. And I went, that's how you lose paint back there. I don't know. So I love the fact that I've had this for so long. I don't play Strats a ton now, but this guitar's been with me for so long. I pick it up all the time at the house, and I take it to sessions and play it definitely. But it's just this one tells a lot of stories for me.
Yeah.
Special guitar.
Yeah. This is, it's got the transition logo.
Yeah.
Started in late 64, 65. And these the Strats weren't made like this for very long. And then in 66, they got the bigger headstock.
Right.
So there's only like a year or a little more than a year where they had that logo on them. So,
Yeah.
Very, very cool guitar. Well, let's hear you play some of it.
Okay.
So tell us about this Senn guitar.
Okay, Jeff Senn is one of my best friends, and he's a builder here in town. This was the second guitar I actually that he made for me. When I was playing with Delbert, we opened for the Stones down in Dallas, and Keith was playing his Sunburst Telly, and I was just like, oh man, I need a Sunburst Telly. And so I started talking to Jeff about building me this guitar, and I was gonna do the humbucker in the neck like Keith's, but I kind of like P90s better in the neck position or something else. The humbucker for me just gets a little too muddy. So I thought we'd try a P90, and this is a Lawler P90 and a Don Mayer bridge pickup. And that combination just works so well in this guitar, and I used this guitar with Delbert for years, and I used it certainly on a ton of sessions. I mean, for a good while, this was definitely a main guitar of mine, live and in the studio. And it's just a really good one. I mean, he knocked it out of the park with this guitar. It looks great. It feels great. Can't say enough about it.
So now, did he put that wear underneath the bridge plate?
Oh, right. No, I did. I think there was some finish gone. He had some finish gone, but you can't feel it obviously. But when I had to have this guitar refretted at some point, he pulled out pictures of the original, the day that he sold it to me or whatever, and he was like, "Man, there's a lot more wear on here," and he said, your fingers are gouging into this body. And I'd always seen that on other tellies, but I never knew that my fingers were doing that. And I never even noticed it. I never even thought to feel that. I just always played the guitar. And when he brought it to my attention, like, there's some significant wood missing right there.
So do you base your fingers there to when you're
I
picking,
don't even know.
Yeah.
I don't even know. I mean, I guess I must. It must just be like the edge of my fingernail digging down in there over time. I don't know what happens when I play, Zach. I just start playing.
Yeah.
I never thought about it, but I love it. I love that that's happened, and we did an interesting thing here that other players have probably done. I had the control plate reversed so that I could, because I didn't like using volume pedals out on the road with Delbert. I didn't need a volume pedal. It was just louder or softer,
Yeah.
But I like being able to do volume swells at times and be able to get to the tone control and do tone swells. But one of the problems on the telly is if you got the, by reversing that, I could get to these while I was playing easier. But I always found that when you've got the switch in the neck position, it's right up against one of the knobs. It's kind of hard for me to manipulate. So Jeff, being brilliant, I don't know if he saw this somewhere, but he said, hey, how about if I bend that tip just a little bit so that this knob sticks down, points out diagonally. Mm-hmm. And what that allowed me to do is just swipe underneath the knobs for quick pickup changes.
Right.
And I just thought that was the smartest thing I'd ever heard anybody come up with. And people see it all the time. I've had guitar techs go, "Oh man, I don't know what happened. Your switch got bent. I didn't touch it. I swear." I'm like, no, it's
No,
really
it
supposed
like
to be
that.
like that. It's kind of funny.
Well, if people want to learn a little bit more about Jeff Senn, we actually interviewed him in another Truetone Lounge. So
I saw that.
Yeah, I encourage anyone to check that out. But let's hear you play the guitar some now.
Okay.
Rob, let's talk about some of your other gear. So
Okay.
tell us about your amp. What'd you bring today?
Okay, well, I brought my Princeton Reverb. It's a blackface. I'm not even sure of the year, but blackface Princeton Reverb.
Okay. Have you had anything done to it?
Well, I've gone through a bunch of different speakers over the years, but right now I think what's in there is a 10-inch Jensen Neo.
Okay.
And I kind of, I just like that speaker. It sounds like a Jensen to me.
Okay.
I like this amp sounding just like a stock Fender. I tried 12-inch speakers, but I have deluxe reverbs, and so I kind of felt like I should keep the Princeton the way it was intended by Leo to be. I mean, it's I like the 10-inch speaker in there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've seen you also use a deluxe reverb a fair amount. What kind of speaker do you put in there?
I think lately it's either I have 3 of them, and I think 2 of them have a warehouse ET65 speaker.
Okay. And that's like a Celestion G1265 speaker, I believe.
I guess I think
Yeah.
you're right.
Yeah.
I don't know all of that, but that sounds good. I record with that quite a bit, and I think the other one right now has a G12H30 in it.
Okay.
And that's a good combination too.
Yeah. So anything been done to the Princeton circuit-wise? Otherwise, it's just stock.
I think it's pretty stock. I think one of the transformers has had to be changed, but Todd Sharp did the work when I got this amp, and he just happened to have a period correct transformer.
Wow.
He was like, "Hey, look what I have! I can just put this in there right in place of it, and so it's
Worked out perfect.
yeah.
So that's kind of a grab and go amp.
Yeah. I record with that a lot at the house or
Okay.
a
And then
small non-cartridge.
and if you're going to on a cartridge session, you're going to have a lot more stuff. What would be your typical amp arsenal on a cartridge session?
Okay. Well, I have the thing that I use more than anything else is a Presence Knob basement head.
Okay.
I have 2 64 basement heads that are the tuxedo ones, Blackface Cosmetics, but the
Yes.
Presence Knob still.
Yeah.
That's what I use most of the time. I also have a 72 50-watt small box Marshall head that sounds killer. I have an old Silvertone Twin 12 amp that I like a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And I do have an old matchless. I have like a 94 DC or HC30 head.
Yeah.
I like that too. I don't use that one as much as the other 3, but for certain sounds, that's perfect.
Yeah.
They're really great amps. A lot to choose from.
Cool.
Yeah.
And let's talk about your pedal board.
Okay.
So is this is kind of also kind of a grab and go board? I'm assuming you also have other boards that are maybe perhaps bigger than this.
Yeah. I have a few different boards. My main big cartridge board has a lot of this stuff on it. Just a few extra things. But this is what I would take to a non-cartridge situation, like a session where they aren't paying for cartridge. And
Yeah.
I changed this around a lot. So this is just kind of how it is at the current moment. The first thing is this Scarab Deluxe fuzz pedal made by Basic Audio.
And so what does that do for you?
Well, it's a fuzz pedal, but it's capable of a lot of different sounds in the fuzz realm. I mean, you want me to show you the different?
Yeah.
Okay,
let us hear it.
right now I have it set on like a gated kind of fuzz sound, which is interesting to me. I'll turn this slap back off it. You hear how it's like gating the fuzz and cutting it out a lot.
Right.
Sometimes that's a really cool percussive thing. But by turning this bias knob up, you get more of the, longer sustain on the notes. And it's just a really cool, versatile fuzz pedal. I love it. That company, I have a few of their pedals, and their fuzz pedals are pretty quirky and do some pretty interesting things.
Yeah.
So there's that, and then from there, I think I go into the King of Tone pedal, which is I probably use that most of the time for overdrive. This is like kind of a cleaner boost side. I'll show you that. Well, here's the dry sound. And then when I kick this on, it's like same sound, a little bit louder, pretty much. And then this side is more compressed, just more gain. Let me turn this level up a little bit. Little out of tune there. But that's that pedal. And then I think from there it goes into this J Rocket. Right now I've got this J Rocket Dude pedal on here. I usually have an Ibanez Distortion there.
Okay.
Which I use. I always have those around. That's like probably my main pedal, and it's weird that I don't have that with me today. I didn't realize I didn't have it on here.
Yeah.
But yeah, I've been checking this pedal out. I think this is kind of like their take on maybe a Dumble or something.
I believe so.
Yeah. It's just another
flavor of drive.
Another flavor of drive, really. So
backing up to the Distortion.
Oh yeah.
There seems to be a little kind of cult of the Distortion, and so Jeff Senn, who's been down here, had one, and then Derek Wells had one.
Yeah.
And so I think they're saying that a lot of this comes back to you, and then maybe you got it from Leroy Parnell. Is that kind of the way the Distortion, kind of little cult of Nashville came about?
Yeah, I think so. I was using them. I got turned on to them from Leroy Parnell and Bob Britt.
Okay.
They both had them, and I just loved the way that their guitars sounded when I would see them. And so I bought one, and it instantly became something I related to. And it's weird because I don't think it's like that universal of a pedal. It takes a little bit there's a learning curve to that pedal, but once you figure out how to work it with your amp and the tone controls that are there, some of it's not as intuitive as it seems. Some players will turn on that pedal and it's like the worst sounding thing you could ever imagine. But for me, it worked, and yeah, I mean, now it's like I was buying them when they were like $100 a piece or less, And so it's funny. I mean, I walk around my house and I'm like, oh, hey, I've got another Boss tuner. Oh, there's a Distortion in that box. I mean, I've probably got 20 of those things laying around because they aren't made great.
No.
So they do break on you. And so I just, for a few years, just was buying every one that came up on eBay, every chance that I got,
Yeah, they're part of the 10 series Ibanez. They don't have a great switch in them.
The switch doesn't always,
they don't have good. They've got plastic shaft pots on there that don't really take much abuse.
Yeah.
So
I don't know why anybody would do that to a device that's designed to be stepped on.
Yeah.
You know what? I have CC DeVille's old Distortion.
Really?
Yeah, I do.
DeVille from Poison.
It's funny because I bought this one online and they claimed that it was his, but they didn't have any information to back it up.
Right.
But it had different knobs on it. So years later, I was doing a session with Poison's keyboard player, Will Dowdy, I think is his name.
Okay.
And I said, hey, I think I have CC's old one of his Distortion pedals. And he goes, really? Here's my number. Send me a picture of it.
Yeah.
And so I sent him a picture of it, and he forwarded on to CC DeVille, and he went, yeah, that's my old pedal. So I've got CC DeVille's old. I would have sold it back to him or whatever, if he wanted it. But I mean, But I just find that funny that I've got that, you know, and it's barely hanging on. I mean, the knobs are so loose. I mean, there's no telling what that pedal's been through. But yeah.
So next up, you have a Dunlop volume pedal, and then
well, I mean, I run into this EQ pedal, and I, you know, this is just a great tool to have. You know, I like to radically EQ things for different parts and make them sound funky.
So, that's a pretty extreme EQ setting where you're really kind of driving up the mids and cutting, you know, bass and highs.
Yeah. Well, you know, like for like a small part in a song, that must have just been the last setting I had it on.
Yeah.
But yeah, like, you know, if you can imagine, like in a breakdown or something like that, it's kind of cool to get smaller and, you know, just to change the scene a little bit. Yeah, and so I use that a lot. Sometimes I jump the gain way up on that and EQ it flat, you know, and use that as an overdrive. It's very effective. And then it goes into the volume pedal, and this thing makes you louder or softer.
Really? Never heard of such a thing.
I know, it's crazy.
It's kind of like a gas pedal
I know.
for the guitar.
Gosh, so many secrets getting out today.
Yeah. And then you've got the tuner running off of it.
I know, and that is probably the most important thing on this whole board.
Staying in tune. And then you've got the big Strymon pedals, the Mobius and the Timeline.
Yeah. I think I run into the Mobius after the volume pedal. You know, and this is just has tremolo, phaser, flanger, Leslie stuff, and I mean it goes on from there. These boxes do a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
Everybody in Nashville, a lot of people have the Strymon stuff because it's a small package, a lot of sounds.
Yeah.
And from there, I run into the El Capistan, which is their tape delay pedal. You know, I like the slapback a lot on this. You know, I like that a lot. Now, the reason why I have it, you know, because I also then go into the Strymon Timeline, which is a dedicated delay pedal. So I find that I always have slapback. I like having just a dedicated slapback sound.
Okay.
Now, on bigger, when I have cartage, I have a full tone tape Echoplex thing, and I love that the best.
Yeah.
Or a Deluxe Memory Man, you know. So I like to have something that's my slapback sound.
Okay. And then you want something else to put on top of that when it's needed.
Yeah. So, you know, this is the Strymon Timeline. These things are great. You can just do a lot with that. There's a great lo-fi setting in there that I like to use to make it sound really trashy and stuff like that, you know. In Nashville, a lot of times, you know, it helps to be able to dial your delays into the tempo of the song.
Certainly.
I actually don't do that. I like to just trim it back just a little bit because I like it when the delay feels a little bit behind the beat. You know, because then you don't have to use as much of the effect somehow, and it still sounds like there's more there going on. So, I mean, it's just kind of nice to have something that you can get a lot of sounds out of really fast. You know, and that's just basically this whole pedal board, and my big pedal board is basically these things, but there's a few other gags on there, you know, for when they're needed.
Well, very cool. Well, Rob, thank you so much for coming out today. We really appreciate you coming out to the Truetone Lounge and, you know, telling your story and telling us about your gear. Thank you.
Thank you. Great fun.